Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee, the podcast on the business of video production.
Creatives Grab Coffee is hosted by Dario Nuri and Kirill Lazarov from Lapse Productions. Our goal is to share knowledge and experiences from video production professionals around the world. Whether you're a freelancer looking to start your own business or a seasoned business owner aiming to scale your company, this is the show for you.
Join us as we develop a community of like-minded creatives looking to learn and help each other grow. Welcome to the business of video production. Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee.
Before we get started with the show, let's go over today's sponsors.
Do you have a shoot in Toronto? Do you need crew or a strong production partner to help you with your project? Lapse Productions is one of the top production companies in Toronto and your go-to video partner.
With our strong creative skills and extensive network, we can help you achieve your goal. Lapse Productions is able to offer you production services, white label services, or finder fees for project handoffs.
Reach out to us on our website at lapseproductions.com to learn more.
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and grid fan packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt. Welcome to Audio Process. We are a boutique audio company doing location sound, sound design, post-sound, ADR, Foley. We service equipment. We do all your audio needs here in Toronto. We got you covered. Come on down, audioprocess.ca. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and all of the other internet things to creativesgrabcoffee.com. They'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you, and we're all going to have a real good time.
And now, let's begin the show.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode. Today we have a very special guest from Australia. So we have Ryan Spanger from Dream Engine. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thank you. Great to be here.
So we usually like to learn a little bit about the guest and their company, and then we'll dive into some topics. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I have a video production company in Melbourne, Australia called Dream Engine. I started the company in 2002. And probably like a lot of your listeners, I make corporate videos, promotional, educational, training. We've got into live streaming over the last few years. And we mainly work with medium and large businesses, government departments, universities, that sort of thing.
And there's also two other things you do, which are podcasting and coaching. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, having done my business for, I guess, over 20 years now, over the last few years, I was starting to be contacted by people who saw what I was doing and said, hey, can I come and learn from you? And it just started organically, where we would get together and I would share with them. And then really over the last couple of years, it became something that I really formalized. And as part of that, I really thought deeply around what is my style of coaching? Like how do I want to approach things? Where do I want to help take people to? And so I sort of formalized that more as, I guess, like a coaching system. And as part of that, I have a podcast, which is called The Business of Video Production, which connects with what you guys are doing very much. And
our
every
sister
week
podcast.
That's right. Every week I talk, it's pretty much just me getting on the microphone every week and sharing what I have learnt about video production, the stuff I've done well, the mistakes that I've made, and it's something that I do that I'm enjoying very much.
And with the coaching, who do you tend to kind of take on as like a mentee or mentor-mentee relationship? I'm assuming that's kind of how you're going about it, but is it like people who are like fresh out of school, people who are just jumping into it, or is it people who have been in the industry for like say 5 years but are still trying to kind of like break out a little bit more or get or learn something new? Like what is it typically like for you?
It's a little bit of a mix, and it's actually mainly people who get to know me through the podcast. And I guess the beauty of that is that they've been able to spend some time getting to know me, getting a sense of me, my philosophy, my values, my approach, and they get quite a good sense of whether we're going to be aligned or not. But I guess it's quite a mix between people who are relatively new, people who might have, started a production company maybe a year or two ago and they've realized that they need a little bit more help to get themselves going, and people who are sort of in their 30s who've been doing things for a while but now really want to go to the next level and start to scale a bit more. But I actually find that a lot of the principles are the same regardless of the point that they're at, because a lot of businesses, and I was in the same situation, have skipped a few steps along the way. A lot of us have almost got into business by accident, where we started working, we picked up a few jobs, we did some freelancing. Before we know it, we're running a production company, and things just kind of grew organically. And so often, there's a bunch of steps that are worth going back and doing, whether it's around branding, whether it's around fixing the website, identifying a little bit more clearly who your target market is. And I find those same principles apply, whether you're relatively new or if you've been doing it for a few years.
You mentioned
What would
that
you say are... oh, sorry. Can I ask a question, Kirill, about
go.
The steps? Would you find... You mentioned there's some steps that a lot of us sometimes miss when we're growing our business. What would you say are some of the most common ones you've noticed with the
that was my
people you're
question,
coaching?
too.
Oh, okay. My bad.
All good.
I thought you were gonna bring it somewhere else.
No. I was gonna dive into that more, like the more common steps or mistakes that new businesses are making.
I think one of the biggest ones is not actually formally planning and building like a marketing machine, like not actually thinking about what your system is to firstly identify who your market is, how you're going to get out there and talk to them, the messaging, and then once you're having that conversation, how they're actually going to move from having the conversation to becoming a client. I think often because it just happens organically, we start to bring in work through word of mouth and through recommendations, or maybe someone kind of randomly finds your website or something like that. But in marketing they talk about this idea of an offer that converts, to actually work on something to the point where that you have something, whether it's a case study video or an event video or whatever it might be. You've kind of identified and then you have refined this product to the point that it's something that you can sell over and over. And then also how you put it out there, how you position it, how you connect with your market, and then the process of actually converting that sale. And I think that's where a lot of production companies need help.
So
Have
would you
you,
say that...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, actually, go, Dario.
Go ahead.
You
go ahead. I was gonna ask it because do you do a lot? Have you always done a lot of self-reflection with your company as you were growing it? Because I feel like to be able to get to a point where you're coaching people and doing all that, you've put a lot of thought into your own company, no?
I have, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I think back, I really surprised myself, because I remember when I sort of formally started the business, where in my mind it was actually I'm launching a business. I've got a business name. I am putting an offer out there. I said to myself, let's give this 5 years, and let's, conversations that you have with yourself, let's reassess in 5 years' time, but really, go in for that time. And I think having that long-term view, but then, definitely. That's the challenge I think a lot of us have, because basically, really, we're all coaching ourselves, whether you're working with a coach or not. We're basically coaching ourselves. We're doing things, we're testing things, we're getting feedback and then refining. I guess we do that in our personal life as well. You notice how you come across, what impact you're having on people, what your relationships are like. And sometimes life deals you some harsh lessons. And then it's, the ability to take that lesson on board and change and evolve. And I think we're all doing that. I imagine you guys are going through a similar process.
Well, when
Yeah,
we have
it's always
time, we try
ongoing.
to.
It's always ongoing, and like, sometimes like it takes a few months where you're working on a lot of client projects, and then when there's a little bit of a quiet time, like in January, this is where Dara and I are discussing things a little bit more of like, how was it last year, what do we want to do next year, what worked, what could potentially work for us next year. One thing you mentioned though that I was a bit curious about, you mentioned how a lot of one thing you're teaching a lot of people is find like a certain type of video product or something that and refine it to the point where you know that you can sell it over and over and over again. But obviously in video production, we are in an industry where things fluctuate like crazy, and sometimes businesses need very different types of projects. So how do you go about kind of doing that, but also acknowledging that aspect of how different every project could potentially be?
I think that's a great point because it's probably similar with you guys. Most of our work is customized. We're not just selling like an off the rack sort of thing, but then you start to notice that you're doing a similar format. So I've noticed that with a lot of the jobs that we do, something entry level might be a half day shoot and a full day edit. That could be something like, interview and B-roll, a simple case study video, something like that. And then the next thing that might be a little bit more complex would be, say, a full day shoot and a 2-day edit, or a 2-day shoot and a 4-day edit. Often, I think it's falling into a format like that. And then there might be some things that vary, like motion graphics titles, maybe the complexity of the shoot, the size of the crew, but often that configuration is the same. And so I think you start to notice things that you're doing quite regularly. And then the other thing that you notice is maybe the types of clients who commission those videos or the types of conversations that you're having. So maybe another way to do it is identify clients by industry or by type. So I think for me, I've noticed that the main types of clients that we have, which are quite segmented and the conversations are different, is one is business owners. So the way I'll talk to another business owner, particularly a small business, will be in a particular way. An agency will be a very different type of conversation. And then like I'll group together corporate, government. Generally that's working with marketing and internal communications departments. So I think those are probably like the three main segments. And then you can kind of start to tailor your messaging based on the segment. So I think it's about identifying these commonalities. And then, exactly like you say, it still is often a little bit different. But your sort of core, like foundation messaging, I think is quite similar.
Yeah, like with most video projects, you will know that you're going to need at least 1 to 2 days to film something, and then a certain amount of time for editing in regards to it. Creative and pre-production could vary depending on also what you're putting together. So I guess you're just getting people started into thinking like that in one sector, and then once they know that, then they're going to be able to expand to the others. Because like you said, talking to a small business is going to be very different to talking to another agency or production company that you're collaborating with, because you're offering different skills and different value to those different entities because they're different target markets altogether.
That's right. And on that topic, I think the other thing that you can start to do as you build a relationship is you become like a trusted leader and an advisor. So you're not just responding to call outs for jobs, but you're having conversations like on a strategic level and sharing things like, here's something that we're doing for some of our other clients that I think you'll be interested in. We're getting really good results with this. I find case study videos is the obvious thing. I've just
But how do
seen
you
the
go about
benefit.
that? I'm curious how you go about that. Like in terms of, it's one thing to tell clients about other ideas and other projects that you do. And usually we do that when we're having talks about a potential project already. Are you also referring to like current clientele that you have? They may not necessarily be calling you for a video project right now, but you may say, hey, here is a case study for a project we did. Is that kind of how you go about it, or what is your process like for that?
I think there's two main things. One is like gently educating them through your marketing, whether it's through your regular emails that you're sending out to your list, or whether it's through posting on LinkedIn, which can be a combination of like sharing examples of work that you've done recently, or writing about video marketing. But it's also through building connections with your clients and becoming like colleagues, actually developing to a situation where they want to start turning to you for guidance. Do you guys have, I find there's a particular type of client who I would say is like a small business moving to a medium-sized business, and when they're going well, they're looking for aggressive growth. Like there's a particular type of business where maybe they have 10 staff, 15 staff, and they're just going well. They're actually looking for ideas. It's very different to a corporate where, say, someone in the marketing department has been tasked with the job of, we need to make a case study video. This is a type of client who they're almost saying, hey, we want to do things. We want to spend money. We want to invest money in video. What have you got? And over time, you start to develop that connection with them where they sort of look up to your creative expertise and are looking for guidance. So it's definitely not with every client, but I find that over time I do develop those relationships where they really are very open to being pitched ideas at the right time.
Yeah, because the challenge is always trying to figure out a way to be more proactive in finding new leads and jobs, because a lot of the time we're very reactionary with leads that come to us. Whether it's word of mouth, someone recommended you to them, or they find you on Google, they reach out to you through your website.
A lot of positive intent leads.
Yeah, like luckily there's a lot of positive intent in there, but also at the same time you feel like you can't always be just waiting around for leads and people to come, for opportunities to come to you. Like you feel like a lot of the time, and this is actually one thing that Daria and I are trying to work on this year, is being more proactive and trying to find different types of projects. So
negative intent leads. That's what
ones that
we're going to try.
That's
to
a good way to
on.
put it. Yeah,
that's what they call it. It's ones that don't have. They're not looking for example, for video content. Those are the people you want to try to get as well, right? Because if they're looking for video, then you're competing against everyone else in your bubble for their business, right? So trying to get people that aren't actively thinking about it could also be another market to hit.
Yeah. Do you have a process for that, or are you kind of like more just letting leads come to you and you kind of work with them like that?
So, Dario, with what you were saying, I think that's a legitimate view. Like, I don't think there's only one right way. I have a different view. Like, I only focus on people who already want video. I find it's very challenging to try to shift someone's view or their idea from not even wanting something to then getting them excited about video. That's really taking them on quite a journey. But with my personality, naturally, I don't really want to influence people that much in that way. Like, I like to help people get what they want. And if I know they're already going to get something, then I'm pretty good at helping them to get there and making them an offer that's going to be compelling. So I love being in a situation where people already have strong intent. They're already planning on making a video. They're already looking around. Maybe they're going to look at 3 different providers, and I'd like to be one of them, and I'd like to put a compelling offer in front of them and help them to make that decision. It's sort of like, if I was going out to get some food and I really wanted a burger, and someone said to me, well, let me tell you about pizza. I know this great pizza place. It's fantastic. You've got to try it. And I'll be like, well, I actually really wanted to get a burger. Yeah, but once you try these pizzas, let me tell you, you're going to love it. So I probably will just stick with the burger no matter how good, that pizza is. So
it's a good thing
you're focusing on people who really want the thing already, and then think about the best place to find it. And the number one place is people who are already getting it from you. So, that they already like you, you've already delivered them a successful result. So giving them the opportunity to buy again. And again, not trying to convince them, not trying to persuade them or put pressure or anything, but just reminding them that you're there and making offers at the appropriate time. And then also the people that they know, whether it's through recommendations. And it can be challenging at first to have that conversation, and it's usually based around at the right time saying, I love working with you guys. I would love the opportunity to work with other people just like you, and giving them the opportunity to recommend you. And often we forget that when you do such a great job for people, they love the opportunity to recommend you. So it might feel like a real ask, like we're asking for a favor, but you know that feeling when someone's done a great job for you, you probably love recommending them. You probably love saying to your friends, hey, there's this guy who did this thing. It was awesome, you know, if you're ever looking for this thing. So I think those are the two places that I would start.
Yeah, asking for recommendations is a good new way of potentially drumming up new business, because again, a lot of the time it is a lot easier to just have people, as you put it, you know, who's looking for video, looking for a burger, coming to you,
Yeah.
who is the burger provider, right? What I was specifically kind of like more so talking about in terms of proactive is not so much calling up individual businesses and being like, hey, do you need video? Because you're right, it doesn't work. It like 99% of the time that doesn't work. I'm more so talking about kind of, I guess in a way, more so the networking, a way to kind of plant seeds with a lot of different people in different industries, that just to get them to know that you are there for video when they do need it. Because everyone may not need video right away, but they might need it eventually, right? Like, for example, I was part of this one marketing organization, just going to a lot of the events, getting to know people, and we didn't get any certain jobs for like about 2 years. And then after that, that's when people started recommending us, because at that point they knew us as the video people, right? So do you do anything proactive in that sense, you know, in terms of like specific networking or outreach in that kind of way?
I think it's a great point that you're making, and it's like an excellent source of leads. And over the years, I've tried a lot of things. You know, like it took me many years to really work out who I was and how I fitted into the video production industry and get to know my personality. And, you know, you've got to play to your strengths. So I tried a lot of things over the years that weren't necessarily me. Like I went along to BNI, which I imagine you guys would know. It's probably the most well-known
I know
business
BNI, yeah.
networking group.
Yeah.
And I think quite a few video people have tried it, and some people have had success and that sort of thing. I thought that it was kind of semi-successful, but I once did an exercise where I added up all the time that I invested going to meetings, you know, traveling back and forth, having separate meetings, and I found it wasn't a great return for me. But I also found, for me personally, I wasn't great at that real business networking sort of thing, like going to events, handing out cards, you know, that sort of thing. But what I found was I was pretty good at networking when I wasn't even meaning to. Like I was reflecting on the amount of work that's come to me over the last few years, just through friends and colleagues, people that I know through different networks, through different social groups and that sort of thing. But I was never consciously trying to promote myself. Just naturally would come up, you know, what do you do, and that kind of thing. Maybe you just connect on LinkedIn, or they would connect with you, they would see you on social media, and that's something that I found has been really good for me. But yeah, definitely, I think networking is a really powerful thing. Is that something that, Carol, that you're out there doing?
That's one thing we're trying to do more of.
Yeah.
And you nailed it right on the head about how the best way to go about it is to try to be more natural. And that's kind of what we're trying to see, like in terms of like where to go in terms of different organizations, or, you know, like marketing associations that might be within your city or something like that, you know, just to be in the community and just get to know people. I think, and try to be natural, not going at it from a very transactional point of view, right? And that was the problem with BNI, because I got introduced to BNI as well, and I went to one of those intro meets, and I had a few questions about the whole process, and it was very transactional based from how they
What do
were
you
talking
mean?
about
What
it.
are they? What do you mean by that transactional?
So what essentially what BNI was like, you would be a group of like, say, 10 business owners, each from different industries. And the whole point is to try to encourage people to recommend each other, right? So maybe one person's a lawyer, one person's an accountant, one person's a photographer, and each chapter or each subgroup is like its own community, right? So it's trying to create like a business community of like people that are not stepping on each other's toes. But the problem with that group was that it was very strict with everyone meeting at a certain day and time every single week. You're not allowed to not make it, or you get like 2 absences a year, which is really funny. And they were saying every week you have to come to that meeting with at least 1 or 2 qualified lead recommendations for someone in the group, which was
Oh, really?
it was way too like I was even telling them, I'm like, guys, this sounds very inauthentic, you know, forcing one to drum up business, you know, in a way that like I don't have not
For
everyone has
someone
the
else,
time
too.
to do it. Yeah, and it's like but like the benefit is that they would be doing it for you too, but at the same time it's like
But how can
one,
how can you qualify a lead for another business owner? That makes
yeah,
no sense.
it's like what am I supposed to do, like do sales for everyone in
someone
that
else,
group
yeah.
on a
For a
weekly
lawyer?
basis? Yeah. Yeah, so like that seemed very transactional, and that's not what we're after, you know. It's more so like the planting the seed approach, you know, and just kind of being you, getting known, and that's I think is definitely the best way to do it. Like I was more so curious, Ryan, if there were any like particular types of organizations or like communities that you've embedded yourself in that you find has brought you some potential, you know, value down the road, whether it was a client or not, because sometimes, you know, people can recommend other people that can help you when you need help, right?
I think you really nailed it there with that word transactional. And with BNI, with the referrals, people would turn up with weak leads because you'd go on a list. And there would be a list at the end of the month. How many leads have you given? And so I'd be given these weak leads that I would pursue, and I'd invest good time, and then not convert them. And so the system is sort of designed to fail unless you're the type of business where everyone can use your service, you know, and then it's great for them. Whereas the video guys, I don't know, maybe some people do really well. But, you know, on that topic, there was an essay that I came across that Tim Ferriss introduced to a lot of people, and this was at least 10 years ago, and it's called 1,000 True Fans. I don't know if you've ever come across that.
I've heard of it like way back about the first 1,000 true fans can push you further than anything else. Like I think that's what the message was. But if, you know, for any of our listeners who don't know it, like do
If that's
give a quick
true, then I
summary.
guess we're 900 away from hitting that goal.
Well, you know, the 1,000 is interchangeable. You know, so for everyone it could be different. It could be 50 true fans. It could be 20. You know, like the idea is that can you gather a very small, like microscopic group of people who love what you do, who will either, you know, buy what you have as regular clients and swear by what you do and recommend you and that sort of thing, or even if they can't buy what you have, be your advocates. They just believe in what you do, they love what you do, and over time, and this can happen, you know, very naturally and organically, you just accumulate people. Like you accumulate people in your world who don't feel like you've entered their world just to sell them something, but there is a genuine connection there. They do genuinely appreciate your work, and I think over time you gather, you know, the small group of people behind you who, I mean, fans, you know, that's an interchangeable word, but it's people that just like what you do, who are going to help move you forward. And I like that idea of just people that I come across, whether it's friends or colleagues or clients or whoever it might be, approaching it with the idea that if at all possible, they will be better off for having known you. That you will give them genuine advice. If they're not a good match, you'll let them know that. If you know a way of helping them, you know, you'll do that. And you will ideally just leave having done no damage, but ideally make their world a little bit better. And I think just over time, if you keep on operating like that, then people just get a sense of you're a decent person, you're an expert at what you do, and over time that'll happen, but it's a long game.
Yeah, it is definitely a long game, and like to embed yourself in a way like that in a community where a lot of people can see you like that. I saw firsthand that it takes quite a while before something comes from it. Like it got to the point where I was starting to think, yeah, maybe being part of this organization is not really yielding much. A lot of the people that I know there are not, I know they're not going to be like clients eventually. But then all of a sudden, this huge project that fell on our laps last year, and it turned out great for us. And it was like, okay, there's something here. So now I'm getting back into the mode of like thinking, okay, now let me get back in there, continue building those relationships, and what other communities could we potentially join to kind of like be a part of it, like a community that I'm a part of. Maybe Dario will be a part of a different community. That way it's not so much both of us in each one, but it's like, we're trying to dip our toes in different lakes, kind of that approach.
I think that's great. I think it's really worth it. Once you've done your research, you're almost coming up with a working hypothesis. Like, you're not just entering a community blindly, like going fishing. I'll just throw the rod in here. You have a sense that you're in the right place. Hey, maybe nothing will happen. You could be wrong, but you have a sense that this is worth pursuing. And then it's like really focusing on process versus outcome. And that's always hard because we want results, we want reward. We want affirmation for our efforts. And I guess generally, the longer that you're able to pursue something without getting the reward, the more that potential reward is. And just when nothing happens, just reminding yourself, just keep at it, keep on going. And then at a certain point, you reassess. But yeah, your ability to think long term, I think, will make a big difference. So I definitely think you guys are heading in the right way there.
I want to go back to marketing a little bit. You mentioned you focus on LinkedIn and newsletters. I'm just wondering, what type of content have you found works best for you in terms of like posting it on LinkedIn or newsletters?
So starting with LinkedIn, for me personally, it's firstly only posting when I've got something that I think is useful or interesting. Not following a posting schedule and feeling like, hey, it's Tuesday, I have to put something out there. So I think that's the first thing, is aspiring for quality and being useful. Then I think secondly, it's actually having an opinion and taking a stand. It doesn't mean that everything that you post needs to be a hot take or something like that, but it's really important to have a view. Like what was popular for years were these listicle style posts, as they call them. Like it could be something like how to present well on camera. Number one, rehearse your lines. Like number two, smile. Whatever it might be. And that was already mediocre content. Now it's completely redundant because ChatGPT will give you whatever you want straight away. So it's becoming more and more about injecting your personal experiences and viewpoints, things that are like a little bit more unique to you. And then I think after that with LinkedIn, it's probably just a combination of like sometimes posting an opinion, sometimes posting work that you have done that you're proud of, and sometimes posting ideas. A lot of the stuff that I post is actually from conversations that I have with clients. I might be on a shoot and someone will ask me something, or I'll explain something, and then I'll just sort of make a mental note. Oh, that would be a cool idea for a post. And then I put it in my notes on my phone immediately, even if it's just a line or two. And if I don't do that second, I'll almost always forget it. Even though in my mind I'll be thinking, oh, this will be such a cool post, it'll just go. So that's how I do LinkedIn. Like it's not a master plan, but most of my LinkedIn strategy is actually just to stay in touch with my clients and prospects and connections, like just to remind them that I'm there, so that when it's time for them to make a decision, they'll think of me. And then there's a whole other approach to LinkedIn, which is more actively networking, connecting with people you don't know, commenting and liking their posts, and then DMing them. I don't do a huge amount of that because I want to play to my strengths, and I find that unless I am like genuinely interested in connecting with them, I find it hard to work a system like that. Sometimes you'll see on LinkedIn people will write, hey, great post, like I've got to actually really feel it. So it's hard for me to say I'm going to comment on 10 posts or I'm going to DM 10 people. I also hate being interrupted, I hate people just cold pitching me, sending me cold emails, that sort of thing. And so I don't want to do the thing that I don't like really having done to me. So I'll only do that if there's something really specific where I will see someone that I would love to connect with, or I would love to do work for them, and then I'll pursue that individually. So that's mainly how I'm using LinkedIn. I don't know if you guys want to talk more about that, or we could talk about the other part which you mentioned, which is emails.
No, that was.
I mean, if you want to keep going with LinkedIn, I'd love to explore that a bit more.
Yeah, because I like your entire approach and demeanor on it, where you're trying to post quality in the sense of not necessarily just content that obviously gives value to the people viewing it, but it's content that actually shows that it's you who's actually talking about it. I feel like nowadays people are getting very numb to like the very classic LinkedIn business posts, you know.
Have you started doing like video versions of your posts?
Yeah, I was curious about that.
I feel like I get a much better response from the written stuff. I have made videos, you know, I've done like pieces to camera and that sort of thing, and it doesn't seem to get as good a response. And I think it's because people can't be bothered watching a video. Like if I do like a 2 or 3 minute piece to camera, I just don't think most people have the interest or the attention span to sit through that.
You got to put like a Minecraft video at the bottom half of the video. That's the only way to keep the attention.
Yeah. But it makes sense, because if you're reading something and it's only like a 1 paragraph quick opinion post, as you mentioned, it is a lot faster for someone to just kind of scroll through, see it, and then even like think about it and maybe might engage with it, right? Like,
but I wonder have you experimented with like different versions? Like, because I'm thinking maybe it was too long, because 2 to 3 minutes is a long time. Like, and did you make it modern where it's like it's got the captions and like the words like pop out, the ones that are spoken like pop up and all that stuff? Or
I definitely have no conclusive evidence. Like it's all just putting stuff out there, you know. So I think with all this stuff, there's no actual rules, you know. Like I think it's got to be something that really resonates with you. And often I think it's like choosing the thing that you feel like you do really well and then doubling down on it, rather than trying to cover too many different things. So I feel like for me, I enjoy the writing process. I have some unique views and I'll put them out there. And always having a compelling image really helps as well. Podcasting, I've really doubled down on that. Like I put in a lot of effort into the podcast that I put out there. Like I really think hard. I kind of work hard on what the content is going to be. I plan it out quite carefully. I try to make the production values as high as possible. And that's something that I've really invested a lot of time and energy into. And yeah, I personally think it's worth finding those 1 or 2 things and just really trying to do them as well as possible.
I really like your podcast, and you were telling me in the pre-interview how you've been committed to once a week, and you're currently on your 50th episode. Like, how many episodes have you done so far again? It's like 40 something.
42.
It's crazy.
If you did that every single week, that's impressive. It took us a few years to get to 85, I think we're at now. And like the first year we only did like 12 episodes. Then we took a year off. Then we came back and we just basically did about 20 a year up until now. And that's how we got to where we are. But now we've gotten the process down to a way to make it weekly, so we're trying to keep up with you now, you know.
Well, actually that just contradicts what I said about sticking to a regular posting schedule, but with the podcast I did commit to quality content every week, and I knew that to grow an audience I was going to need to do that, because it was all going to be organic. And so yes, I did commit to a regular schedule, but I also committed to making sure that I did my best on every single episode, which I've done so far. Like I've never just released something for the sake of it. Oh, you know, a week is coming, I better just put something out there. I've actually really put my heart and soul into just making it as good as possible, as good as I could possibly do. And it just improved, you know, as time has gone on. But again,
I listened to a couple, and Oh, sorry. I was gonna say I listened to a
No,
couple,
go
and they're
ahead.
very detailed. Like, how do you come up with your topics?
I actually, my what works really well for me is when I'm driving. I have ideas, and that's where I do most of my idea generation. Is almost always when I'm driving, and I just have time to think. Then I'll think of an idea, and then I'll usually just dictate it into the phone, and I'll just put my ideas in there, kind of as they pop up. Or I've really trained myself to, with whatever I'm doing, when I have ideas, to get them into my notes straight away. And then, once I've got the ideas, I'll think of a structure, or I'll think of an idea, or maybe a few anecdotes. So I always like to put in personal stories of stuff which kind of helps give the lesson. So yeah, that's my creative approach. There's something about being in a car. There's something about moving. I don't know what it is, but it really gets me thinking.
It's like
Well,
taking
it's
a
like
shower. You always get your best
yeah.
ideas in the shower.
Yeah, so exactly the same type
It's
of
so
thing.
true.
Yeah.
So just for our listeners, just so they know kind of in terms of like what type of format you're doing, like our format is very much like we are talking to other business owners and trying to learn about them through a discussion. Whereas yours, from what it sounds like, it's a lot of like, are you by yourself a lot of the time? Just
Yeah,
kinda, like,
you know
going
what it
over these
reminds me of,
ideas?
Kirill? It reminds me of the Two Bobs podcast. Like, he'll pick like a topic and just like dive into
okay.
it. Yeah, it's,
But
it's really good
just,
actually.
But you're just by yourself most of the time, or do you also interview other people?
It's almost always me by myself. I have had a couple of guests over the time, so every now and then, if I can think of someone that I would love to interview. I actually did a podcast about 10 years ago, which was all interview based, and I did 29 episodes of that. And so I decided for this one I wanted to do something quite different, which would mainly be me talking. And exactly right, as you say, Dario, I'll choose a topic, whether it's sales or writing proposals or whatever it might be, and then I'll just go deep on that topic, and I'll just share everything that I know, and I'm really not holding back. I'm just wanting to get all my best stuff out there, and just and really just share my ideas. So I just try to think of a structure where I can take people on a little bit of a journey, and it is fairly organic as well. I'm thinking as I go, and just trying to make it's generally around 20-25 minutes. And my hope is that when people listen, then maybe they'll just take one or two things and implement them and run with them.
Wow. Yeah, no wonder you have to really spend a lot of you must spend a lot of time then focusing on it, because to generate a lot of content just by yourself, it does take a lot of pre-planning and prep. Whereas like for Dario and I feel like, we got the luxury of, just being two very curious people, and we kind of rely on that to kind of guide a lot of our conversations, because we have like some set standard questions, and sometimes we see something from someone's website or their portfolio that intrigues us a little bit, so we know kind of what we want to talk about. But a lot of it is just letting the discussion kind of flow naturally, as if it's 2-3 people coming together, drinking a cup of coffee and just chatting, right? Whereas for you, it's you have to come up with a structure, a hypothesis, like content, and then like an overall message that you're trying to give. So I'm definitely going to check out your podcast. I'm very curious to hear your approach.
What I mostly do is I go to a car wash, and the drive to the car wash is about 15 minutes, and so I'll capture some ideas, and then I'll wash my car, and then I'll have ideas while I'm doing that, and then I'll get in the car and drive back home, and then I'll just finish off with the rest of the ideas. So I've kind of developed this practice, which just seems to work for me.
You go to a car wash
Nice.
every week? That's impressive. That's
I love
impressive.
my
It's part of the
car.
process. He needs to be spraying water at his car for the creative ideas to flow, right? It's
like
cost of
if
doing
I-
business.
If I was developing a script for a client, it's like I have to go to the car wash, and then, yeah.
They know you by
Add in-
first name
add in the-
basis.
Hey, it's Ryan
it's-
again. Oh, ready for another podcast idea session? Yeah.
Can we pause halfway through, and I'll go wash my car, and then we'll carry on the podcast?
Yeah, he needs more inspiration for the rest of the discussion, right?
There's something about ritual, you know, and I don't know if it's the same with you guys, but I find that there's different, like if I'm doing script writing, I love sitting in a cafe. I don't know why. I love having the buzz of the noise around me and action. Whereas with a lot of the work that I do, it needs to be very quiet. So have you found that there's sort of different environments where you work?
I always need something playing in the background, so I'll either have like a
Same.
show or a movie, just because I don't know what it is. Like maybe I'm lonely, who knows? But
I feel like we as creatives need something like in the background always, just to kind of like, you know, just so that it's not absolute silence all the time. It could be something like that. I mean, also we're people who work from home a lot. It's not like we have a set routine where we always are going to an office. I mean, obviously it varies.
so we
for
are
some
alone
people.
basically.
So yeah, we are alone at home, you know, like my wife is going to work every morning and then she's like, ugh, okay, yeah, you're not really going to work. You're just staying at home, you know?
Watching movies in the background.
I know, yeah. Comes home, sees movies in the background. She's like, "Are you actually working?" It's like, "Yes, don't worry." But yeah. So sometimes you just need some kind of different things to kind of disrupt the routine. You know, whether it's going to the gym for an hour midway through the day to just kind of like break it up a little bit. And I find a lot of the time when I go there, I get a lot of my ideas and thinking just, you know, by being there. Darius, I know, sometimes goes to the library just to do some certain work as well for that kind of similar.
I used to, but I don't like how some people cough and stuff, and then I don't know who.
Never
who's
mind.
sitting up.
So he that
I
went
don't know
away
who sits
very
at
quickly.
these desks, you know, like.
But yeah, like
Yeah.
we need something to break up the day. I find sometimes, that's for sure.
I would love to know, guys, like it could be out of the stuff that we've talked about or maybe something different. What's the big thing for you? Like, what's the biggest challenge you have, or what's the thing, like, I know you mentioned networking. What's the thing that you're really focusing on, or what's the thing that you really need to work on?
Sales, for me at least. I really need to focus a lot on doing more. I see that. I guess that ties into like the networking aspect as well, right? Like I know Carol and I definitely need to get out there more, talk to more people, and then on my end, I want to see how I can maybe target different industries that we kind of have some experience in already. So again, that kind of ties into what I was saying earlier about like negative intent leads, like trying to see, like, for example, like we have a client in the optometry space and we saw kind of like who their sponsors were, and there were other people in their space too. So I was like, okay, what if we actually have 2 clients in that space. Why don't we just start to target more people there, because we have like the portfolio. Yeah. So I want to do more targeted stuff in specific industries like finance and healthcare.
Yeah,
And you mentioned sales.
like
is it more around lead generation, or is it also the actual sales process itself?
Oh, I think lead generation. I think our sales process. I mean, I'm not going to say it's the. I would never say it's the best one. It's
good
everything
for
always
us.
has everything
It's
has
good for us.
Everything always has room for improvement. But I think we do pretty well with like the people we pitch to. I think our closure rate is pretty high.
It's good to own that. You feel that's an area that you feel confident, that you feel competent in, and then it sounds like it's more generating the leads and where to focus on and how to build those leads. Is that right?
Yeah, because like we've been doing this a long time. We've been doing this 10 years, like, and we're passionate about what we do. So when we do get in front of a lead, like I know how to close them on us, you know, but I just need to get in front of the lead. I need them to come to me.
Gotta get
or
in the
go to them.
room.
Yeah.
And on my end, in terms of like the business side of things, one thing I know we need to do more of is the actual kind of marketing and active presence, like online, for people to kind of see us more. And that's one thing that Darren and I are actually right now working on, like some BTS type content that we're starting to kind of produce so that we can get ourselves out there a little bit more, to just not try to be showing off too much, but it's, you know, just here's a little bit of who we are, here's a little bit of what we've been doing, just kind of updates rather than just doing an email to a client or sending newsletters. Like those are good to do, but I feel like there's always more that can be. Like I know
this would be an addition. It would be an addition to that.
This
stuff,
would be an addition.
We are
exactly.
Planning on doing newsletters and more LinkedIn posts and stuff like that nature.
One thing that I found, like that I've always seen that is interesting. There's this one producer shooter that we know who he posts like crazy. I don't know how he does it, but and it's not like he's posting his work all the time, but it's like a lot of like his like little photos or like inspirational quotes that it kind of works for him because it's showing like his process of like what a typical like work day or a shoot day might be like for him, you know, aside from just the BTS, you know, like as soon as like he gets in the car to go or something like that. He's done so much BTS stuff like that over the years, and it's the one thing that I noticed. At first I thought like, okay, this is a lot of things that he's doing, like why I like I don't feel like everyone needs to see all that. But then one thing I noticed that is a good result of what he's doing is he's always at the very top of the social media stories, like Instagram stories. Everyone is constantly seeing that he's busy, that he's doing work. So it's like, okay, you know, maybe a lot of clients are starting to notice that. They see that he's busy, and he's always top of mind as a result. And I think that's what he's doing good. He's doing a very good way of being top of mind for everyone in his network. So he's constantly working. So it's like a snowball effect almost for him. So I'm just trying to think of like also how we could potentially do that for us that is also authentic to us. Because what works for one person does not necessarily work for others. Because if it's not you, it's gonna feel inauthentic when you're doing it. Like I'm not gonna be posting the laptop every 5 seconds, right?
Plus, if you over post, I feel like sometimes it just becomes annoying. Like and you just unmute the person or whatnot, right? It's got to be, I guess, kind of to what Ryan was saying earlier. It has to be like something that's important.
It fits you. It fits you, and it's it has to fit you, and it has to fit like what your audience is looking for at the same time. So. You just, I think that's the thing. We're trying to figure out what makes sense for us.
I really like the way you're thinking. Like, I think a lot of people like BTS stuff, and obviously it demonstrates your expertise, but it kind of takes people, you know, there is like a little bit of mystique or glamour about filmmaking, even if it's corporate video, you know, even if it's just interview and B-roll. There's something kind of cool about it. And, you know, clients will make jokes about bringing out the red carpet and the popcorn, like they have all these associations. So I think people naturally have an interest in cameras and filmmaking and kind of showing them how you do that. There's a lot of things that we do that are so easy for us that we take for granted that can really wow people. Like I think color grading, you know, people like to do that before or after kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, Kirill. I should write that down.
I'm already like coming up with little ideas, and I'm just like quietly just, all right, let me just type this, you know, theme of fun. Because that's what it is, you know, the BTS is fun, right? Like showing that the set is fun for clients.
There's two keys to this. Like the first thing is, like this world that we live in now with social media and self-promotion and all that, like it's by definition, it's weird and artificial. Like suddenly there's this thing which has never happened in human history where we have to be out there doing our own PR, where we're saying, hey, look at me, you know, like in front of everyone, here's a selfie, and like we're talking ourselves up, and it's kind of awkward, particularly for like, I'm quite an introverted person. My natural way is not to put myself out there like that. So it's firstly just accepting that this is kind of weird and artificial, and then just embracing it for what it is. And then I think once you've done that, think from the point of view, like imagine if someone else owned your business and they had hired you to run it, like you're the CEO and you're working for them. What would you do? Like, you know, your role is to bring success to the business. Maybe the business has shareholders, or there's a board of directors that you have to answer to. Then you're not going to say to them, oh yeah, I don't really like I don't like making a big deal out of myself. I don't like to draw too much attention, or social media is inauthentic, or, you know, whatever it might be. It's just, you just do it, I think, as part of the game, because you do have to take on an adapted self to some degree. You are in a business role, and you're playing a role, and you're putting yourself out there. It's like it's a bit theatrical in a way. So firstly, it's that acceptance, but then secondly, it's actually falling in love with the process, like actually choosing the thing that you do that you can actually enjoy. Like you're going to do it regularly if you enjoy doing the BTS stuff, or you enjoy writing controversial posts on LinkedIn, or you enjoy putting out a weekly podcast. Like I think now you guys have really on a roll with this podcast. You love doing it. You love the conversations that you're having. It's not work. It's not anything hard. So trying to find stuff that's really compatible with you, that expresses you. And then I think the final thing is actually stepping up as a leader, for want of a better word, that most people will lurk on social media and they actually won't post. They'll just read other people's stuff. But either they don't, by putting yourself out there and posting regularly, you're basically claiming some type of leadership or thought leadership or whatever. You're saying, I value myself and my opinions enough that I'm going to put this stuff out there, and I'm going to risk embarrassment, or I'm going to risk no one clicking like and not getting their feedback or whatever it might be. So really committing to stepping up. And I think that is very attractive to a lot of prospects and clients, that you value yourself and your beliefs and your knowledge enough to put yourself out there.
Yeah, because it'll show confidence too into your network, and like it's a subtle thing where it's like you're confident enough to put yourself out there, and then the client will think to themselves, or the lead might think to themselves, oh, if he's that confident about himself, I'm sure he'll be confident about the other work that he's talking about. Like, so I think, yeah, we're in, it's funny because we're in the business of promoting other businesses, and yet we forget to promote ours. It almost feels like a bit of an imposter kind of approach. It's like, it's not me, it's not that, like you said, Ryan. And I guess it's kind of trying to break through that and separate like from the personal aspect, also from the business, right? Because some people are like, that's all they do. All they do is post constantly, and it's very hard for the people who don't post constantly to also kind of keep up with that noise as well. When you think about it,
maybe instead
right?
of posting constantly, it's just more about posting consistently. So if you choose to do it like once a month, at least commit to the once a month and do something good, even if it's once a month, because at the end of the year it'll be 12. So if you have 12 really good posts, they'll be better than 50 mediocre or low grade posts, right?
I agree.
I totally agree with that, Dario. Yeah, committing to consistency, but also quality. Like, say to yourself, I have to post one quality post, and sometimes it's something you've got to dig a little bit deep on. And now, especially with AI, there's a temptation to just manufacture stuff, and you've got to put your heart in it a little bit. Like, there's got to be a level of risk. You've got to be risking failure, and you've got to, sometimes when you work on an edit and you really wrestle with it, do you ever have that experience where you're working on something, it's not quite working, you're struggling, maybe you go for a walk, you think about it, you come back, but you're actually putting a little bit of your heart and soul into it. Like, I think with any content you create, there's got to be a level of that as well. And
I also think Kira, you were talking about how like we don't promote ourselves, but we're in the business of helping others promote themselves. I think part of the reason might also be the emotional stake we put on it, because it's not very logical thinking when you break it down. It's very emotional, like, ooh, I feel insecure, or like, oh, what if this isn't good, or that isn't good, or I'm busy with that, I'll put it to the wayside.
Yeah, and I think it's also a matter of like sometimes where you're happy to promote and do great work for the client, but then like you have your own personal standard or maybe even idea of what you should be doing, that you in a way devalue yourself and your work more than it really should be, right? And that, I think that's one thing we need to remember. It's like we also have to stop looking at what other people are doing always and comparing. And that's one of the biggest things that I think people struggle in our business. We're constantly comparing ourselves to other professionals, like to other people in our industry who are at certain levels where you think it's like, oh, they're there, we should be there too. Why aren't we there? And then it's like, if we're not there, then what's the point of promoting ourselves with what we have, And we keep forgetting. It's like, I mean, we've been here for 10 years, There was a certain point where we weren't thinking like this back in the day. I think it also comes with the knowledge of knowing what the industry is like now. Like when you first start, you don't know what's happening, so you're just naively like putting yourself out there. It's like, I'll figure it out, yeah, we'll be good. But now after being in it for a while, it's kind of like, oh, like now I know just how many people there are there that are much better than what at what I do than me. So it's a constant inner battle I think a lot of us face.
What do they call that? Knowledge
Totally.
paralysis, or
Knowledge,
is that a word?
maybe,
It
yeah.
sounds like it would be something like that.
I think it's a great point that you make, Carol, that it's easy when you see people who appear to be further down the line than you are. It can be dispiriting. And it can be, that's the danger of social media, I guess, where they're putting out this idealized version of themselves. And it's really hard not to. Like, we all do that to some degree. And other people then experience that idealized version because we're choosing a very small part of a reality and then possibly putting a positive spin on it as well. So, yeah, I think it's good to see what else is out there, but just to really focus on your own thing. One of the philosophies that really drives me with all that sort of thing is the idea of regret. And I think to me there's good regret and there's bad regret. Like, for me, good regret is if I try something but I mess up, I made a mistake. The good thing is that I acknowledge it and I'll learn and then maybe do it better next time. Bad regret is the things that I didn't do that I probably could have or should have, like I didn't give it a go. And that's actually something that really drives me, is that thought of looking back and saying, if only, if only I'd put myself out there more, if only I'd really seen where I could take my business to, if only I'd had the courage to really put things on the line, and I think as I get older, I feel that more and more of really not wanting to look back and have that sense of regret. And so that will sometimes drive me with the decisions that I make about promoting myself, even if it's a bit scary, or even if it might rub people up the wrong way, or if I don't come across well, if I happen to fail in that time. It's really just with that sense of avoiding that regret of just looking back and I apply that to a lot of things in my life, like whether it's about sports, like I'm quite into cycling, and I kind of, with that, I just wanted to see where I could take things as well. I just really didn't want to look back and say, I had unused potential. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How many topics have we given you for your podcast? I think
know,
you have
right?
like
Now
a
I'm
good
curious.
5 to 10 topics you can talk about. I think your next 5 to 10 weeks are good.
Yeah. Just
I
break
won't
down
need
this
to go to
podcast.
the car wash.
Yeah, save money. Don't go to the car wash.
Yeah.
No, that's a very powerful point. I think we could probably end the discussion there because we've already gone over the 1 hour mark. But Ryan, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm very curious to hear about your topics and how you break them down, because that's something that not a lot of people in our industry do. So can't wait to see what.
Before we end off, though, Kirill, tradition. Come on.
Oh yeah, we have two questions for tradition.
No,
Yeah, Dario,
well, it's just a one, really. How did you come up with the name Dream Engine?
It was actually quite a technical process, in that I have a friend who's works in advertising, and when I started the business, we did a session together, and he has a process of idea generation, which is great, which is just write down lots of ideas without judging them, and I think we came up with like 20 or 30 different names for the business, and there were actually one or two others that I had in front of that, which I tried to register but had already been taken. And so that was one of the things on the list. But from a personal level, for me, it was the combination of something creative and something technical. So Dream being, very creative, and Engine, being very functional and very businesslike. And I think that's really what we do, is that combination of creativity and business or practicality. So for me, it really resonates for that reason.
nice. I like the philosophy behind it. I do have one more question, which I'm always curious about, is what would you say is like maybe a dream project of yours that you want to kind of strive for, like a dream client potentially, depending?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I guess so much of the time it's this business-like process that for me personally, like, I love documentaries. I've always loved documentary making. I went to film school and I studied documentary making, and I've tried to incorporate elements of documentary into the corporate work that I do. I have made some actual documentaries, but that's the stuff that I love the most, human stories and following them over a period of time. it's not always practical and financially viable to make that kind of content. But I think for me, if I was given the opportunity to really follow a human story over a period of time in an observational documentary like classic long-form documentary filmmaking, that would be a dream project for me.
Nice.
All right. Well, yeah, I think we can end it off there. So, guys, if you want to find Ryan, go to dreamengine.com.au. And your podcast is The Business of Video Production, correct?
That's right, and the best way to link to that is through my personal website, which is my name, ryanspanger.com.
Yeah, and then I guess your coaching business is also on there too, right?
Correct.
Cool. All right,
Guys,
well,
thank you so much. I've loved this conversation. It's been great to connect with you.
Thank you.
Same here. Loved our very philosophical discussion. That's for sure. Our existential discussions, right?
All right. Well,
Right.
thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creatives Grab Coffee. Please make sure to follow and engage with us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app.
Creatives Grab Coffee is created by Lapse Productions, a video production company based in Toronto, Canada.
Creatives Grab Coffee is also sponsored by...
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and group band packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt. Welcome to Audio Process. We are a boutique audio company doing location sound, sound design, post-sound, ADR, Foley. We service equipment. We do all your audio needs here in Toronto. We got you covered. Come on down, audioprocess.ca. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and all of the other internet things to creativesgrabcoffee.com. They'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you. And we're all going to have a real good time.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.